A very good morning, my dear students. Hope you all will be fine by the grace of God. Today, we are going to start with the first chapter of Science 1, Standard 10th. The name of chapter is Gravitation. I will explain today what is gravitation, force and motion, introduction to scientists, circular motion and centripetal force, Kepler's law, etc. So, let us start with our explanation part, children. So, see here, children, this is the first chapter what I am going to explain today. In this, you are going to study this all subheadings. So, in the previous chapter, also you have studied about the gravitational force. In lower standard, also you have studied. Today, let us see what is gravitation. Here, the phenomenon of gravitation was discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. So, this point you have to underline. This we are going to study gravitation, and this point you have to learn. So, who discovered gravitation? Gravitation phenomenon was discovered by the Sir Isaac Newton, and he discovered the force by seeing an apple from a tree on the ground. Mean just he was sitting and suddenly he saw that an apple is falling from a tree and that is coming to the ground. He was very surprised. He was very wondered that all the apples why they are falling vertically downward and not an angle to the vertical. Why they fly up in a horizontal direction? Why they cannot fly? So after so much thought, he come to the conclusion that earth is having an attracting force towards everything, and this force is toward itself earth only. So this attractive force is in the direction toward the center of the earth, and the direction from the apple on the tree to the center of earth is vertical direction. At this position, here we can see same way how the apple is falling vertically downwards. Same way we can see that on here on the left figure 1.1 is there. You can see this figure, children. Wait, I'll show you. This is 1.1 figure. Children, this is the figure. So, here the concept of gravitation force and the gravitational force between the earth is given here. Now, here you can see, children, that the force on an apple on the tree is towards the center of the earth, along the perpendicular from the position of the apple to the surface of the earth. And here also we can see that the gravitational force between the earth and the moon is also existing. So the distance in the figure is not according to the scale. Here Newton thought that if the force of gravitation act on apple on the tree at different height from the surface of the earth, can it also act which object are even greater heights? Like we can see that moon. A moon is very greater height. So is it possible for that? So for that we are going to study now. First is force and motion. Here, so let us see here that what is force and what is motion. So this heading we are going to study that a force is necessary to change the speed as well as the direction of motion and object. This you have to note down, children. It is an important point. So this point you have to learn. That a force is required to change the speed as well as the direction of the motion. Now come to the introduction to the scientist. So this is the scientist, and he was a great scientist. His name was Sir Isaac Newton. He was born in 1642, and uh, his life span was 1642 to 1727. So he was one of the greatest scientists, and he was born in England. He gave his laws, equation of motion, then theory of gravity in his book, and that book name was Principia. So this point you have to underline what was his book's name. Now, before this book was written, there was one more scientist. His name was Kepler. He had given three laws which were describing the planetary motion, like how the planets move in their orbit. The reason why planets move in the way described by Kepler's law was not known. That means he described the motion, but he did not give the reason behind that. So Newton, with his theory of gravity, mathematically derived the Kepler's law. In addition to this, Newton did groundbreaking work in several fields like light, heat, sound, mathematics, etc. He invented a new branch of mathematics. This is called calculus. So, what was the new branch name? What this Newton invented? Its name was calculus. So, this you have to note down. Now, and it has a wide ranging of the application in physics and maths. He was the first scientist to construct a reflecting telescope. Now, let us see the circular motion and centripetal force. So, this you can see here, children, in this figure 1.2. So, for that, what you have to do? Here, we will see in this pic. In this pic, we can see a girl is doing some activity. So what is done in this activity, that you have to take a stone and that you have to tie at one end of the string, and take the other end in other hand and rotate the string so that the stone will move in a circular way. Now you can see any force on the stone is there, or in which direction is this force acting. This all we will see now. As long as we are holding the string, we are pulling, and as we will leave it, it will go in the tangent direction. So, it is always when we are pulling the stone towards us, that is toward the center of the circle, we are applying a force toward it. This force stop acting if we release the string. In this case, the stone will fly off and it will go along a straight line, which will be the tangent to the circle. Which circle? In which circular direction that stone is moved. So it is moved in a circular direction, so a circle will be formed. Now, when the string is released, because that is direction at its velocity at that instant of time. Now, you may have seen in lower standard, or you may recall that a 5 rupees coin was kept on a rotating circular disc flying flies off the disk along the tangent to the disk. This you have studied in 5th, 6th standard already. A force which is acting on any object moving along a circle and it is directed toward the center of the circle, that force is called the centripetal force. So this point you have to underline, children, here, that what is centripetal force. Now see here, children, a force act on any object moving along a circle and it is directed toward the center of the circle. This is called the centripetal force. Centripetal means center seeking. So this is important point. Now you all know that moon, which is natural satellite of the earth, this has a definite orbit. The direction of the moon as well as the speed constantly changing during the motion. So some force is constantly acting on the moon, that is why it is changing. So what must be the direction of this force? How its motion will be if no such force is acting on it? Then uh, some other question is that do the other planet in solar system revolve around the sun in similar way? So, and how the force is acting on them? What must be the direction? From this activity we can understand the question and some example. It is with the question and some example it is clear that for the motion to go around the earth there must be a force which is exerted on the moon, and this force may be exerted by the earth which attract the moon towards itself. Same way the sun also is attracting to the planet including the earth towards itself. That is why the planets are not falling in the from the orbit toward the sun. Now, so these all are the important things what you have studied in this. Now let us come to the Kepler's law. This is Kepler's law. Planetary motion had been observed by the astronomers since the very old time, since ancient time. Galileo made all observation of the planet's position with the naked eye only, but by the 16th century a lot of data were available about the planetary position and motion. Johannes Kepler studied this data and he noticed that the motion of planet follows certain rules and regulations, certain laws. He stated three laws describing the planetary motion, and that is why on the on his name this law's name were given as Kepler's law. Now let us see here, children. I'll explain you. Here you can see this figure is there, children, how this an ellipse is formed. So you can see that an ellipse is the curve obtained when a cone is cut by an inclined plane. It has two focal points. The sum of the distances to the two focal points from every point on the curve is constant. So which are the two focal point, children? I'll show with the some other color, children. So see here F2 and F1. These are two focal points. Now here we can see if A, B and C are 3 points on the ellipse. A, this is A point, this is B point and this is C point. So here AF1 plus AF2 is equal to. Now I'll show with some more other color. Let us see. Now see here, children, AF1. So this is A and this is F1. So this one. Then AF2, that means this line. This will be equal to the BF1, that means we can see this line, and BF2, this line. Now is equal to CF1, so equal to this line and CF2. So this way we can see, children, that how the Kepler's law are there. First, Kepler's first law we will study. So here you can see one figure. What this figure is showing? The orbit of planet moving. This is figure 1.4. The orbit of planet moving around the sun. What is the first Kepler law, children? The orbit of a planet is an eclipse with sun at one of the foci. Now, figure 1.4, here we can see the elliptical orbit of a planet revolving around the sun. So which type of the orbit is there? Elliptical orbit is there. And around what it is revolving? Around the sun it is revolving. So the position of sun is indicated by S. This is the first law, that the orbit of a planet is an eclipse with the sun at one of the foci. Now Kepler's second law. The line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals. So AB and CD are distances covered by the planet in equal time. So in this you can see that this is AB distance, and here you can see this is CD distance, this distance. So this is covered in the equal interval of time. This is second law. AB and CD are distances which are covered by the planet in equal time, that is after equal interval of time. The positions of the planet starting from A and C are shown by B. So you can see here, children, that from A, this is A, and C, that are shown here by the B and D. So position from A it cover up to B, and from C it cover up to D. So children, here we can see that from A it goes up to, here you can see this is A point, from this point it goes up to B, then from C it goes up to D. The straight line AS and CS sweep equal area, AS and CS. So they sweep equal area and equal interval of time. Therefore ASB area will be equal to CSD. That means here I'll show you, children, with the help of brush. This area will be equal to this area. Now Kepler's third law. The square of its period of revolution around the earth is directly proportional to the cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. So if R is the average distance of planet from the sun and T is the period of revolution, then T square upon R cube is equal to constant. Kepler obtained these laws simply by the study of position of planet, which was obtained by regular observation. He had no explanation as to why this planet obey these laws. So we'll see now how these laws help Newton in formulation of his theory of gravitation. So children, we will see now that Newton's universal law of gravitation. This is the Newton's universal law of gravitation. So, in this all above consideration including Kepler's law that led to the Newton to formulate his theory of universal gravity. And according to this theory, every object in the universe attracts every other object with a definite force. This force is directly proportional to the product of the masses of two objects. Like suppose if we'll take one object mass is m1 and other object mass is m2. So this will be proportional to m1 into m2. Now, and it is inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. So first let us have a look at the introduction of the scientist. See here an introduction to the scientist. Johannes Kepler, his lifespan was 1571 to 1630, was a German astronomer and mathematician. He started working as a helper to the famous astronomer is Tycho Brahe in Prague in 1600. After the sudden death of the Brahe in 1601, Kepler was appointed as a royal mathematician in his place. Kepler used the observation of planetary position made by the Brahe to discover the laws of the planetary motion, and he wrote several books also. His work was later used by Newton in postulating the law of gravitation. Let us see here now, children, that see this formula, children, and how this diagram is there. Gravitational force between two objects. So here we can see, children, this is m1 object and this is m2, and d is the distance between them, and how the force are acting. These are the force. Now two objects with masses m1 and m2. These are kept at a distance d from each other. Mathematically, the gravitational force of attraction between these two bodies can be written as F is proportional to m1 m2 upon d square, or if we want to remove this proportional sign, we have to write a constant, that is g. So F is equal to capital G m1 m2 upon d square. Now here g is the constant of proportionality and it is called the universal gravitational constant. So this point you have to underline, children. First of all, this you have to learn, and then you have to learn this. This is very important, children. Now, the above law means that if the mass of one object is doubled, the force between the two objects also doubles. So this point you have to underline. It is very important point. If the mass of one object is double, the force between the two objects also doubles. And if the distance is doubled, the force increases by if the distance is doubled, because it is inversely proportional now. So the force will be decreased by a factor of 4. So if the two bodies are spherical, the direction of force is always along the line which is joining to their center. That means center of M1 is joined by center of M2. Now the distance between the center is taken to be d. In case when the bodies are not spherical or they are having irregular shape, then the direction of the force is along the line which is joining their center of mass, and d is taken to be the distance between the two center of mass. So here we can see, children, that from equation 2 it is seen that the value of g, here we can see, children, this, that the value of g, that is gravitational force acting between two unit masses kept at a unit distance away from each other. Therefore, SI unit, the value of g is equal to the gravitational force between two masses of 1 kilogram which are kept 1 meter apart. So this point you have to underline, children. This full you have to underline. Now we'll see here, children, the center of mass of an object is the point inside or outside the object at which the total mass of the object can be assumed to be concentrated. The center of mass of a spherical object which is having uniform density is at its geometrical center, and the center of mass of any object having uniform density is at centroid. So this point also you have to underline, that what is centroid. So children, here I am ending my lecture. Hope you all might have understood. If any doubt is there, you can message me and can clear your doubt, children. Thank you. And it is my request that please make one long book, and whatever point I am underlining, whatever formulas are there, that all you have to write chapter wise and lecture wise in that long book and start learning. Anytime I may take surprise test. Second thing, that you have to make the chart of each and every chapter. You can make at one chart, you can make at least 2-3 chapters diagram, and that you have to keep at your study place every day. Practice those diagrams so that you can learn in a better way. Thank you, children.